Previously on the Game On podcast.
They don't realise behind the scenes the signage, the grass art, people involved at all the different levels, scaffold people, and it's crazy.
I thought with the crowd there, Baz, I just thought we should have locked everyone in, mate, not allowed anyone to go.
Yeah, it was good. It was good. It was a good weekend.
Oh, it was.
Did you get 5 minutes to sit back and actually watch some of the footy on the weekend?
Yeah, I went. I sort of got the girls a position up in the southern stand, my girls, and so for a period there, I think it was on the Sunday Arvo, I went up there and just sat with my daughter, and just had a look, and it was great, to see that sort of vibe, and just a massive thank you to the government and to the AFL, to the Norwood Council.
But you had to put up with Will Bakewell in the grandstand up there with you, mate. So that was a pretty big significant outbid for you. G'day, Will. I'm sure you'll enjoy your mention there.
Where was that? What was that?
I'm just saying with your daughter with Will Bakewell on a Sunday. So, that was a big commitment by you as well, mate. So, touche, Will.
William.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, no, but and the board of the footy club, the board, just fantastic. That they had the faith, because there were days where I'm sure they looked and thought, maybe this is a bridge too far, but they held firm, and as I said, it was just brilliant to see the whole state pull together.
Oh, it was fantastic. And that was the thing with me, Baz. I don't think there would be a supporter from a club I didn't speak to last weekend. I spent a fair bit of time in at the footy bit in Elder Park and all that, and it was just awesome. Look, I'm not an AFL person. I'm far more an SANFL person, but it was absolutely awesome to finally have something which wasn't Victorian-centric and be here and appreciate it. And the atmosphere it was just like the inaugural Grand Prix, and we're going to cover it again a bit later on, and it was just fantastic.
Yeah, it was. If Impey had scored that goal, that last goal, I reckon the place would have exploded.
Yeah, because it was a pro. And to our credit, and to you, Baz, Hawthorn have already requested to play again at Norwood Oval next year. So hopefully that does help us keep at least one game.
Yeah, that'd be good. I think. As I said, I can't ever remember a time when there was such a good feeling and people were. Even in the turf industry, guys all texting each other at Mount Barker, Mount Barker, Matty Sampson at Unley, everyone just texting each other, is everyone all right? How you're going? And it was fantastic, that just everyone bonded together. And
I think that's a key point, Baz. It's a really important point, exactly that. Everyone bonded together. It was a unique atmosphere,
A unique experience really,
look, I actually went out to Unley for the Collingwood training on Saturday morning, got asked upstairs to Sturt's new facility, which is absolutely fantastic. Yeah. And just things like that. It was just a goodwill vibe with so many things.
Yeah. As I said, it's just a massive, we're just blessed that we were given the opportunity, I think.
And hopefully we keep it next year, and hopefully, therefore, I would say that the canteen at the scoreboard end gets the same treatment as the canteen did it.
Sportscast SA presents Game On. Game On. South Australians' destination for everything sports. Local, national, and international sports. AFL football, soccer, basketball, golf, baseball, tennis, cricket, and any other sports played in this wide world. And we're going to have a blast doing it. So sit back, relax, and let's do this thing. Welcome to Game On.
Welcome to Game On. My name's Pete. Once again joined by Malcolm and Barry. Last week was fantastic, talking about the fraternity of brothers in the greenskeepers field of work.
Yeah, it gave us a good insight and certainly a little bit of stuff which went on with Gather Round and the AFL, as we said, it's probably had more water and fertiliser in the last 3 months than it's had in the last 60 years.
Yep.
Lovely to have AFL money around. So, it was a great insight.
I got approached on Sunday from a greenskeeper for lawn bowls, but he does listen to our podcast, Corey Hicks. A big shout out to Corey. Works hard on the greens down at Lockley's there, and he said he'd been listening and thought it was fantastic that Barry gave us his insights as to how the fraternity is not only for bowling but also for footy as well.
They are
cricket and so on.
It's a close-knit fraternity.
Yeah.
A lot of them are affectionately lunatics about that side of things, and that's meant as a compliment.
And absolutely, and fantastic job, and thank you, Barry, once again.
Yep.
Around the grounds.
On Around the Grounds today, we're going to have a bit of talk about Adelaide United, the SANFLW getting to the business end of the league part of it. The development squad obviously finished last week. The netball, but we're going to start off once again with the AFL. Round 6 completed. Any surprises for you from round 6?
Not really. Probably Western Bulldogs beating Fremantle so easily over in Perth was probably the major one.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that most people got 8 or 9, there'll be some upsets this week.
Absolutely.
Try and pick your game where it'll be the upset this week.
Absolutely. I was in the same boat, I think, when I did our tips. Both of us got an 8 or a 9 somewhere in there as well. Yes, the Bulldogs was a bit of a surprise. I think Geelong really giving Sydney as much of a towel up as they did. I know Sydney are struggling a little bit with injuries, and it was also at Kardinia Park, which is, really a home ground advantage for those guys there. Probably the other surprise was the Crows and Hawthorn. A lot of people were obviously overconfident with the way that the Crows played. My question to you is, do you think the extra time off that they had may have just sort of broke that momentum for them?
So, mate, possibly, but I think it's more the point of you've played a game at Gather Round, you've played a showdown, the 50,000, or in the atmosphere has been down, so even if it's subconsciously. Mm-hmm. And Adelaide had enough of that ball in the second quarter to go in 3 or 4 up. Would have made Hawthorn have to attack more, not lock down, force support, dead ball situation, that side of things. So it could have been totally different in that regard. And in the end, Adelaide pinched it. So, yeah.
They talk about teams that have got to win ugly, generally, as part of that building block that they've got to have a game or two like that to just see where they're at. And I don't know if you saw some of the footage of Matty Nix in the last 30 to 40 seconds, really just told Van Berlo and the other coaches, hey, stop, let's just see how this plays out.
Well, that was
it was very mature.
Dawson. Mm-hmm. Dawson called the shots in the last 30 to 40 seconds. Now, Adelaide had a bit of luck there.
Yep.
Miller was probably pretty lucky not to get a free kick paid against him for in the back. That was very clumsy.
Yep.
So, a little bit, but they played it pretty smart apart from Miller there on that one bit.
Do you think it was great that Nix has empowered the players to go, you know what, win, lose or draw, we're going to see how this plays out and use it as a learning experience?
Yeah, well, I think you really can't do as much as you used to be able to. With the fact now it's the 6-6-6 rule, you can't put the guy behind the ball straight away. So it makes it pretty hard. So the players have really got to know, right, what's the set play? Mm-hmm. So if Dawson's playing half back, he then floats back in that last minute once the ball up. So it's got to be done beforehand. So I think that's what it really was.
He did call Laird back as well. Yeah. So he really was marshalling the troops or directing traffic. Likened a little bit to last season with Scott Pendlebury with Collingwood, really being that marshal down in that back line when things did get a bit tight.
If any side isn't practicing the last 2 minutes in terms of both situations, just be in front or just be behind, they're lunatics. Not to...
Collingwood did it so effectively last year, didn't they?
And even Collingwood this bit where, and I will say, I watched that last quarter after the North game on Anzac and just sat and just watching it in the bar at the Cooper's Corner. I will say Collingwood's work rate and run and support of their teammate is the best I've ever seen in that last quarter.
Wow.
For someone who's watched, obviously, 8 billion games of footy.
Absolutely. Another surprise for me was probably Carlton and St Kilda. Once again, St Kilda burning us. We sort of keep waiting for something to happen, and yet the structure that...
I tipped Saints.
So did I, but I'm just saying that
you
thought that Carlton were going to come out and respond after such not a poor effort against the Crows, because I think the Crows definitely deserve the credit for that first quarter and then controlling the rest of the game. But you sort of expected some sort of reaction, and they didn't quite get it the way that I thought they might.
I think it's showing that they are relying on the Twin Towers a bit, and
their efficiency going forward is not great.
Yeah, but if McKay's got a kick for goal for my life, mate, I'm back drinking. We're going out for the night because that'll be it. Like, geez, if he's lined up for goal, you're not backing him.
Yep.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let's go back the drop punt. Darcy Fogarty,
yes,
run straight at goal, kick the drop punt.
Yes.
I know I'm old. I know I'm old-fashioned, but McKay, it's not working, this kick round the corner. Let's just go back to basics.
I think that, there's a lot of things going through his mind at the time. I think you're right. Go back, settle yourself, take your full 30 seconds. If you do want to go around, you don't have to go at such sharp angles. But anyway, we'll go on from that. We'll talk about the crosstown rival Port Adelaide playing the West Coast Eagles. No real surprises there. West Coast is so depleted at the moment. They've even got some of their ex-stars that have only retired in the last couple of years coming out and playing in their waffle. Huge ramifications, obviously, for them as the year goes on.
Well, you wouldn't back West Coast in an internal at the moment.
It would be pretty tough. The Suns in North Melbourne played out a pretty entertaining game. I think the Suns did what they needed to do.
Probably the best thing about that was Ben King's best game since coming back from the knee recut at the start. He started pretty slowly, so hopefully that'll give him a bit of confidence.
Absolutely. And then we finish off on the this was the Anzac round that we're talking about now, that we finish off with Melbourne and Richmond on the Monday night.
Both games,
great crowd.
Both games probably on the Monday night and then on Tuesday with a better side coming over, just showing their class in the last quarter and a half.
I think Richmond were pretty gallant for 2 3/4 of the game.
I was at the Bay for the Bays and Woodville West Torrens game. I will admit I did walk into the bar to watch the last quarter of the Melbourne-Richmond game.
Fair enough. And then obviously the final game of the round, the Anzac, always attracts a big crowd, always attracts a lot of eyeballs. But on this occasion, they had a record crowd for an Anzac Day round.
Yeah, which is great. But I will still say the SANFL have got it right, that the previous year's grand finalists, you should get a reward for playing, for making the grand final. Anzac Day, the big game. Collingwood and Essendon effectively get a game of finals-like intensity as a bonus each year. Mm-hmm. And I just think, yet again, it shows that it's the Victorian-based competition.
Absolutely. Well, the argument could be that the showdown is pretty close to a finals atmosphere as well. Gather round sort of provided that a little bit more than usual for both Adelaide sides.
I just think Anzac Day, though, it shouldn't be a monopoly of two clubs. That's my own thoughts.
Agreed. It's been going on for quite some time. It probably won't change for a while, but I do like the idea of both sides' grand finalists getting a crack at that prime time slot, so to speak. All right, mate, we move on to round number 7 this week. Port Adelaide v St Kilda.
I think you've got to go for the Saints in Melbourne. Port decimated by injuries, a bit up forward.
Now, speaking about injuries, we didn't, because of the way that our timing was with our podcasting, we didn't get a chance to talk about Mitch Georgiadis doing a knee in the SANFL.
Let's just say, I won't name who I was with, but he said, because I was at the Sturt Port game at Unley, and he said, have a look at Georgiadis' body language. I turned around, watched him for the next 30 seconds to a minute.
Yep.
I'm sorry, he wanted to be anywhere but Unley Oval. He then dropped the chest mark, which you and I would have taken, and did his knee in that. Now, I'm not making a joke of it. I feel for the lad and all that, but I do wonder.
There have been discussions that potentially he's heading back west, obviously home pool.
He certainly looked like he did not want to be out on Unley Oval.
Yep. Bad injury, obviously, to a young fella, and once again, worst case was confirmed 24 hours later, unfortunately. Yes, I'm a bit with you. I think St Kilda have just got that little bit more structure at the moment, and I think Rossi Lyon is just a new man, isn't he? I saw him giving high fives to everybody going around the other, and never in his entire coaching career has he done that.
Let's not forget, though, Port have beaten St Kilda in 11 of the last 12 they've played. They've been St Kilda's absolute bogey side. So,
right.
wait and see on that one.
I agree with you. Being at Marvel Stadium in Victoria does give St Kilda the slight edge on that one.
Yep.
All right, we move on. Brisbane v. the Dockers.
Brisbane
as well. The Dockers are just disappointing a little bit at the moment.
not even just going.
I can't mount a case, unfortunately.
Very disappointing.
The Derby not Derby. What do they call it? Battle of the Bridge.
The Battle of the Bridge. Sydney a couple back in. I know they put on the thing that Buddy was being stood by a 20 player who played 23 games so far, making a bit of a deal of that. Well, the way Buddy's gone so far, as we said at the Paynham Tavern, we could have done the raffle and decided who was going to stand him amongst who was in the bar.
In the room,
the way Buddy's been going. But so I don't quite get so excited by that. But I think McCartan is the big in for them for defence. And
you would expect a little bit of a comeback, I suppose, after...
And GWS have lost Taylor, who is probably arguably the best. He's one of the best 3 or 4.
I've actually been impressed with GWS's ability to be able to stick in games and really just show that little bit of fight. Yes, they're probably down a couple of personnel at the moment. That little bit of class. They did obviously lose Taranto and Hopper. So, they're a little bit on the rebuild, but I'm impressed with what I'm seeing so far.
Tom Green's a big backing, is a big inclusion. So
absolutely. All right, the Bulldogs and the Hawks.
Bulldogs
for me as well. Melbourne, North Melbourne. Absolutely agree with you there. Well, surely Carlton can beat the Eagles. It is over in Optus Stadium. And generally Carlton travel pretty well to the West.
Yeah, as I said, you just can't tip West Coast.
All right, now we got a bit of a beauty on Sunday. Essendon v Geelong.
I'll go Geelong. I think Essendon, the mental side of that, after being 5 up at three-quarter time,
I'd have to agree,
and being completely overrun, I think, while Cam Guthrie's a big out and Merritt is a big back in, where Merritt's only got himself to blame for that, in fact, he wasn't playing on Anzac Day, that's a big in, but I'll go Geelong.
I'll go Geelong as well on the basis that I think they're just starting to get that rhythm going. Yeah. The first couple of rounds when it looked like everything was going to fall apart for them, you got to remember that was the oldest list in the AFL last year, and they did play in a grand final. So a lot of their grand final, their pre-season would have started just slightly later.
Yep.
So they're just starting to build quite nicely. They talk about 2 teams, maybe 3 teams potentially coming into the 8 and 2 or 3 coming out of the 8. You'd have to say at this stage, Geelong would be one of those teams that are just out of the 8 at the moment, who will probably be in.
Exactly.
All right, another one that's going to be intriguing to watch, Richmond v the Gold Coast Suns.
Purely because it's in Melbourne, I'll go Richmond, but just one that M. King could be the key there. Ben King.
Yep.
Get Ben and Max mixed up that way. King being kicked his 5 last week. Hopefully that kick starts him.
Yep.
So that for me is the game. While I'll go Richmond,
yes,
for me that's the major game, which is an iffy.
Now I'm going to say something really ridiculously stupid here, and I'm sure everyone's going to laugh along with me, and probably yourself. Richmond don't travel well to Marvel.
No, that's true. Oh no, it's ridiculous.
Stupid statistic, and yet it's just down the road.
Oh, and Hardwick hasn't helped in that way. I'm sure that's contributed to the mental side of it a bit.
Absolutely.
And look, I'd love to see Gold Coast knock them off, but I will go Richmond.
Absolutely. I'm probably in the same boat, but there is a couple of matchups that I'm really looking forward to watching between Gold Coast and Richmond. And then probably the biggest one of Adelaide's last 3 or 4 years. I mean, they've played in some very good games, beating Melbourne. Was it last year or the year before here at the Adelaide Oval?
Yeah, 2 years ago.
And Carlton obviously late last year, in the season where Carlton were probably primed for a finals berth, and unfortunately Adelaide came out to play. Adelaide v Collingwood. Insights on this one, mate?
It's a huge game. Look, Pendlebury out is massive. You doubt that Laird will play. I sincerely hope the news is wrong tonight saying that Schoenberg will come in.
I think it's Matty Crouch, isn't it?
It's got to be Crouch.
Yep.
It's a like for like. It'd be crazy if it's not. Why bother to have kept him on the list, Might as well have sold him for a Burt Pie if you're not going to play him now.
Yep.
But
they did try. The word was down that they tried to facilitate a trade.
But you've got him on the list. He gets the ball. That's never been the problem. The problem was Laird, Keys, Crouch together in the midfield was terrible. It was a shocking mix.
Yep.
with disposal by foot being the major weakness, well, suddenly you've got Rochelle and Rankin to give the ball and Lockie Scholl back in the side and Jones on the wing to give the ball to runners. Play Crouch. Use him for that. Because for mine, he's the perfect go-to with Mitchell.
Yes.
You know, that for me works.
Absolutely. Well, I was going to throw a wild one out there. Is it something that he could potentially tag Dacos?
I don't know if he'd have the pace to go with Dacos. For mine, it's key starts on him. If Collingwood throw a curly one and Dacos starts forward, I reckon that's the confusion for Adelaide. If he starts down back, Keys takes him exactly like he did with Sard and try and play it real close and tight. If they start him down the other end, that's when I think Adelaide won't be sure what to do. That's what I'd do if I was Collingwood.
Okay. Rochelle Rankin, maybe? That'd be a delicious head-to-head duel.
That's more if he starts down back. I think if he starts down forward, I really don't know the way Adelaide will go.
Millerer?
Maybe. But
I'm just spitballing, mate.
Is Millerer physical enough is a big doubt.
He'll get plenty of the ball, but, can he stay with him? All right, mate, we move on to the SANFL. Sorry, you're picking Collingwood on that one?
Yeah, I am going for Collingwood.
I'll go for Collingwood on that one as well. All right, we move on to the SANFL. Anzac round. The Bulldogs, a bit of an upset over the Crows.
Yeah, Adelaide kicked for goal poorly, but to the Bulldogs' credit, they made them pay, pinch the game, the last kick of the game. Great result for the Dogs.
Isn't it amazing in the AFL and the SANFL teams that are just letting teams hang in there with a little bit of inaccurate kicking? It's come back to burnt them almost all the time this year.
I think Adelaide's small forwards, it was something like 2 goals 12 or something between them last week. Yep. So they sort of probably got what they deserved in the end.
They'll rectify it.
Yeah.
The West Adelaide defeating the Panthers.
Now,
big
that
surprise.
was a massive upset. So, that could really hurt South Adelaide in the end. So,
I know it's only early on in the season, but, you're right. It was a bit of a surprise. I had to refresh the screen. No disrespect to West Adelaide, to just make sure that it had updated fully. Definitely. Sturt defeating Port Adelaide.
Yeah, I was there. Sturt were pretty impressed. Just did really what they had to do.
They seem to be a force this year. They seem to be back to the way Marty Matner had them a few years ago.
They're running pretty hard. Fredericks has been
invigorated them.
Pick up for that. May well go on the mid-season draft. You've heard it here on Sportscast SA. Yes. Wait to see on that one. Hawthorn. But you didn't hear me say that. I think he's a genuine chance. And, they were impressive and just ran too hard for Port, worked harder, and they were the better side.
Hey, and we did talk about sort of those top 3 teams, and we did add Sturt to it after round 2, and I think it's justified. They seem to be humming along very, very nicely at the moment.
I did catch up with Jamie McPhee, former Australian under-19 cricket captain. I went to school with him, and he was well and truly on top for the 3 votes for best on in the bar at Unley after the game.
The new facility there?
Very impressive. Fantastic.
It is, we're hoping to get a little bit of a live broadcast there at some stage during the season. Maybe we'll get them towards the end of the final, towards the end of the minor round, leading into the finals, because I think they're going to be there and thereabouts.
Very impressive.
All right, Glenelg beating Woodville West Torrens.
Yeah, they were good.
That was a little surprise. I mean, we sort of think the Eagles are going to be around the mark too, and Glenelg had been a little bit slow to get going, but
Glenelg were good. They were very good. They ran hard. Big, good-sized crowd. They declared 4,600. I admit, I do think there might have been a bit of gravy on top, because I reckon if there was 4,600 there, or there was 20,000 at Nord on the two
gather
rounds
end,
but it still was a really good
absolutely.
And
that was on a Monday night too. Yeah. So you got the AFL on a Monday night, obviously the holiday on the Tuesday.
It was a different way to do it.
Yeah,
but it worked. Full credit to Glenelg. They took a risk and it worked.
Yep.
So and I did speak to the people in the bar, the couple of ladies in the bar, and they said they'd been a lot busier than a normal day game. Okay. So well done to Glenelg.
Well done to Glenelg. Obviously with the and I get to the next round, Nord v North on Anzac Day. Who takes that time slot on a Monday night? Where else would it work if, say, Glenelg did make a grand final?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I will be honest. The lights at Glenelg aren't good enough. I don't agree. I think there's only one ground where they can be playing night games at the moment. It's Norwood.
Yep.
Centrals are being done up at the moment, so let's wait and see on that one. But I will say at both Woodville Oval, Woodville West Torrens ground, Glenelg, Richmond's nowhere near good enough. Believe me, there's more light in this room at the moment.
Okay, wow.
Richmond. And Glenelg supporters we were chatting about, and they said, it's just way too dark on that far side. Like you could have murdered someone near the pocket, and you wouldn't have got caught.
Yep.
So,
Fair enough. Obviously, I'm interested to see whether the SANFL are keen to keep that time slot. Hence the reason why I sort of posed the question that Glenelg want to own it, I suppose, at the moment. But if they do make a grand final, who's the logical
Let's just say too that Gather Round being successfully for that we have the next 3 years of that. Fantastic by Peter Malcom and the South Australian government. Let's just say that a couple of the clubs, we may have just mentioned them, maybe on the gravy train of that, trying to get in for light improvements.
Absolutely.
Let's just say that's part of it.
Remember, at the end of the day, that benefits the SANFL, and really that's where our heart is lying. We love the AFL, but we absolutely adore the SANFL and what it does and everything that goes on with the SANFL. All right, we get to the North game on Tuesday, mate. North
just way too good. Look, I will be honest, on a personal side of things, congratulate Liam Robinson, son of one of my best mates in Mark, an old team manager, made his debut.
Yes.
Did kick a goal. Let's just say the scoreboard may have been a tad loud at that stage, even though Norwood were getting thrashed.
Yep.
So, really excited for Liam, and that go right back to, know him before he was born, obviously, and that side of things. Look, at the moment, I will say as a Norwood supporter, it's just made me appreciate last year's Premiership more.
Yep.
We were nowhere near the best side. Were we third, fourth, fifth best side? Semantics.
Yes.
I just think more credit that they won a flag from there with nothing. And look, just with guys who really got the 11 out of 10 out of themselves with that. And it's very rarely you get so many do that and to grab a Premiership from there. Look, it's disappointing at the moment, but I'm circumspect about it. I'm reflective of that. And look, I will say too, I was going to bring this up later, but we might as well go with it now as well. Matty Nana's put his hand up admitting he's having mental health problems, which I think is great.
Yes.
It's a step forward. And so Jacob Kennelly and Matty are going to share the captaincy. Great to hear a male admit they're having problems. It's something that's a subject which eats away at me and always will.
Yep.
I've only got one male member of my wedding party left, so it is, it's pretty close to the bone.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I just think Matty Nana will encompass that a little bit again later on.
Yep.
It's just for mine. That's the more thing, and just admit, hey, we're struggling, Norwood, and look,
there are more important things in life.
We will come back to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Norwood's list obviously turned over a little bit in the last 12 months. Like you said, pinched one when we weren't technically the best side out there, but we played the best final series that we can.
I will say,
it has happened before.
Yes, but I will say some of the new guys have not adapted to the system. Now, whether they've practiced it, Norwood, very much a structured game plan. That's twig strength.
Yes.
Guys going to the right spot. And last year there was a game at Norwood. I knew the opposition wasn't going to score. I just looked and everyone was in the right spot.
Yep.
That's not happening at the moment. So,
is that a case? We talked about how Sturt are humming along a little bit. Marty Matner had to rejig things over the last 12 months, and then this year, the majority of the players that he had last year obviously still involved this year, and now are starting to understand his structures a lot more, and now they're reaping the benefits from it.
Yeah, possibly.
I think it seems to be in that same vein at the moment. Yes, absolutely disappointed that Norwood didn't get the chocolates there on Anzac Day. North were very good. That's exactly right. And
so well done to North Adelaide.
And North Adelaide really, part of our pre-season sort of predictions, we sort of thought that they were going to be up and about again, and they are. And they're playing really, really well at the moment. Look, I think, again, if we're sort of power ranking or seeding these guys, it's probably still North Adelaide, Sturt, and the Woodville West Torrens. And Glenelg thrown in there with the Panthers a little bit. So
Centrals,
it's pretty open, and Central's getting a good win, and then West Adelaide getting a really good win. So look, it's a pretty good competition, and there's no easy games. That's what really it gets down to.
The crowds are the best they've been for the first 3 rounds in 7 years, so that's a good result. So
congratulations to the SANFL. It looks like the structure's right, and the gather round buy has obviously helped as well. Yep. All right, we'll take a quick break, mate. When we come back, we will have a look at the soccer, the SANFLW, and the netball.
Yep.
You're listening to the Game On podcast. We'll be right back after this short break.
We continue on with the soccer. Adelaide United, another big opportunity last week, drawing 4-4 with Perth Glory, which was insane, and obviously a goal almost at the end there to tie it. Final round game tonight, actually, against Central Coast Mariners at home.
And crazy. I think there was 3 goals in extra time, and the goal to equalise was in the 98th minute or something. So
97th and a 3/4 minute or something ridiculous like that. Obviously, very, very good luck to the Adelaide United. Hopefully, we're cheering them on from second spot here next week.
Yeah, we will certainly be following it.
All right, mate, we'll move on to the SANFLW. The league side of it is just starting to take shape. Some results from round number 8. South Adelaide defeating West Adelaide 45-7.
Yeah, South Adelaide are pretty strong. They also won the Development League. I was there there at the game. Congratulations to the Panthers, Griff and his daughter playing, and that it was the world's changing. She breastfed the baby on Norwood Oval in the centre square with holding the Premiership Cup. It was superb. It was definitely Jamie was proving that she was definitely John Griffin's daughter.
Fair enough. Sure not Peter Griffin?
No. Griff listens to our podcast.
Welcome, mate. Absolutely fantastic. Well, that's something that I wouldn't have heard of happening at an SANFL ground before. Maybe a world first. There you go. Congratulations to South Adelaide.
Say too, South Adelaide people were well and truly pointing out that I was the Norwood person out there, and I may have been copping a fair bit.
Hey,
I just grinned and copped it. We lost.
All's fair in love and war.
Yep.
Isn't it great that the SANFL is bringing a new level of supporter to the game? And how good is it that the SANFL Women's Rounds Development League and the league itself are getting supported and really going well?
Yeah, they have developed a bit of a core supporter base, and there was quite a good crowd at Norwood because, as I said, I commentated the Norwood North game, which North were just a little bit too good.
Yes.
It's probably...
And that leads us in that Norwood have lost to North Adelaide by a combined of 4 points over 2 games.
Norwood's combined losing margin of their 4 games they've lost is 11 points.
There you go. Absolutely crazy. Yeah. So, yes, obviously North Adelaide defeating Norwood 45-43. The Eagles defeating Glenelg 45-12.
Which was a good result for Norwood, I may add.
Absolutely. And to finish us out was Central's having a pretty good weekend all round, defeating Sturt.
Yeah, Ben Hunt. Congratulations, Rex. So the Dogs on the rise there, and they're certainly around the mark.
They are. All right, we move on to round 9, mate. Sturt v Norwood at Unley.
I did notice looking that Rashid is a big out for the Blues. I did have a quick glimpse there. So because of that, I'll go for the legs.
Fantastic. Yes, I reckon I'll go for the legs there as well, but I think it'll be a tight, tough tussle out at Unley Oval.
And full credit to Sturt, they're trying a triple header tomorrow with their reserve.
I think they did that just before the pandemic a couple of times, and it worked really, really well, utilising their resources that are already there for the league and the reserves game. Yep. The Tigers, Glenelg v the Panthers.
At the moment, you'll go the Panthers. Yep.
Glenelg, probably those injuries early on is just starting to catch up with them a little bit.
Injuries have caught up.
Yeah, absolutely. The Eagles v West Adelaide.
I'll go the Eagles.
I'll go the Eagles as well. And North Adelaide v the Bulldogs out at Ex-Convenience Oval at Elizabeth.
Big game.
Huge game.
It's a huge game. Look, I'll go the Dogs.
Dogs at home, I reckon, 2 in a row. They're starting to hit their form quite late in the season. All right, mate, we'll keep an eye on that leading up to the finals over the next couple of weeks. But we move on to netball. The Thunderbirds, they're lighting it up at the moment.
Yeah, and fantastic too. Sellout crowds, and there's now negotiations have started, and they may go to the entertainment centre because they're selling out the Netball SA Stadium so consistently. Yep. So fantastic there. And also congratulations to Matilda Garrett from the Thunderbirds being included in the Diamond squad.
Yes.
They grabbed her at work because there was like 20-odd missed calls on her phone. So there was a bit of a panic that something may have gone wrong.
Yes.
But it was good news being delivered. So, yeah.
Fantastic. Great to see the Thunderbirds on the rise again and selling out stadiums is fantastic.
Great news.
The appetite for supporters in SA at the moment is absolutely unbelievable.
It's fantastic.
Obviously we had the Gather Round, plenty of people there. We had LIV Golf, plenty of people there. We've got Tasting Australia at the moment. We've got the netball going absolutely bananas. And in the basketball, I haven't got this on the run sheet, but the Adelaide 36ers have regained the services of a player who'd been here during the pandemic as well. So, they're on the rise as well.
Humphreys,
that's correct. Yeah, Humphrey B. Bear.
Yes. So, it's going. It's sports on fire here at the moment, and
it's the centre of Australia as far as sports go. And
we're the sports capital.
We are the sports capital. All right, mate, we'll take a quick break, and when we come back after the break, we've got a special guest.
He's a great man, a man I admire massively, one of the all-time greats, Michael Kingo Taylor.
Excellent.
You're listening to the Game On podcast. We'll be right back after this short break. Past players, past legends, past legends.
Absolute privilege to welcome aboard one of my favourite ever footballers. It's an absolute Norwood royalty, Michael Taylor, 6-time best and fairest, 6 other seasons in the top three, twice runner-up the Copeland, member of the Norwood, obviously team of the century, Norwood Hall of Fame, and AFL Hall of Fame. Welcome aboard, Kingo.
Yeah, howdy, Malcolm. How are you, Peter?
Thank you for joining us, mate. Let's go back to the beginning. Where did you start your junior footy, mate?
Yeah, it's way back a little place called Reedy Creek, which is in between, down the southeast. It's in between Lucindale and Kingston. Came off a property down there and played at Kingston Colts and played a few senior games at a very young age. And then we, of course, in that era, we, the girls played netball and the boys played footy, and it was always, looking forward to the weekend as kids to play sports. So, and we'd travel all through the southeast playing footy and netball. So that's where it all started. Yeah.
It's a big thing out in the country there that the netball and the footy clubs are generally interrelated and support each other through thick and thin.
Absolutely, and it's the family day. Like we'd go. It wasn't unusual, for me to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning to go to Edenhope, which is a few hours away, to play junior Colts, and you'd stay the whole day as a family, and it was just to make a wonderful day of it. And we'd watch all the footy and watch the girls play netball, and it was, just one of those things that the family would always talk about. Can't wait for next Saturday. Here we come. So
was Fabulous Phil around?
Yeah, yes, he was. He was playing for Edenhope. Yeah, he was standing on heads all the time. He was even like he was playing senior footy at that stage, and I remember seeing him a few times, just watching. Who's this, bloke? I didn't know who he was, and he was an amazing player even back then. Yep.
And then, so obviously a few clubs are after you, but the great man in Wally Miller convincing your mum and dad that you would get supported down here in Carmel Court and lining up a job at Metro Meats for you.
That's right.
And that. So go from there. Go on with there, Kingo.
Yeah, well, certainly just before that, I got a letter when I was 13 from Bob McLean from Port Adelaide Footy Club to go and play for them, but there was no zones in those days, so it's open slather. So you could, clubs could come down and get anyone. And mum and dad said I was just way, way too young, which I was. I was only 13, and not too often did we go to the city. We never, ventured past Kingston very often. But certainly the great Wally Miller come into our lives, and mum and dad met. We drove down and met Wally, and driving back home, Mum was convinced that was the club I had to go to. So my mother was the boss, so I looked up to her immensely, and certainly how Wally explained it to Mum and Dad how they'd look after me. I was only 15, I think, at the time, and how Mrs. Carmen was the house mother at Carmel Court, and so she was a good country lady, and Mum could relate to that, and of course we had 16 players into Carmel Court from all over South Australia, so it was
So just explain Carmel Court for our listeners. Obviously, we've had a few guests talk about Carmel Court, but obviously you lived and breathed it. So, just run us through how that all worked, mate.
And if only those walls could talk.
Virtually it was 16 players at a house, which was a bit like, I suppose, a motel in a way. And they looked after us and fed us, and we did what we had to do. And kids would go to school, or I worked. So at Metro Med, as Malcolm said, which happened to be the coach, Malcolm Smith, got me a job there, which I really enjoyed because I was from the country. So from that point of view, everyone got on well together. Out of the Carmel Court, I think there was something like 20-odd premierships, senior premierships, I think. And I think if you counted all the junior premierships, it'd nearly triple that, I think. So, and of course, the great man John Wynn, I met him for the first time, and he changed my life in many ways, and still does today. He's just a wonderful mentor to me, and always has been, always will be. And we'd always look up to him, and he certainly showed us, about sport in general, what we had to do and how we had to, get ourselves ready for it. And we all got on well together. Never saw one fight there. We live very close to Kenzie Oval, so and Sir Donald Bradman lived down the road on a few streets away, so it was
Holden
quite funny
Street.
a few times. Yeah, so but certainly that was a wonderful thing for the club. Their thought process, how to do it and how to get it together, and it was whoever, the whole club. It was just the amount of players that got out of that Carmel Court was incredible.
Now, with that, Kingo, I actually scored for Kenzie as a kid back then, and Phil Carman, Robert Oatey, and Neil Craig would train up on the hockey oval up there, and it was just incredible to watch these two super athletes and Robert Oatey pushing himself to compete. And there'd be a few more people around when Ross Dillon was playing cricket for Kenzie. A few more of you guys would come up, but it's something that I've never forgotten watching Phil Carman and Neil Craig.
Yeah, and Phil was a magnificent athlete. I used to go running with Phil a fair bit, and I couldn't keep up with him, and he was just a natural runner. He just was. Halfway through a 5K run, he'd be yapping to you, talking to you, and we were trying to keep our breath. Like it was just, but the whole setup there was just. It was just. I know you can say footy, but it was more than that. It was life experience. You felt comfortable with the setup, and you felt welcome at all the times. And as I said, everyone got on so well together. And
as you said, Kingo, as you said there with John Wynn, people out there, especially from the outside, only saw Winnie, the tough, gruff player on the ground on that. Just have no idea the compassion of the guy. And John Wynn and Ian Chappell are just so similar in a lot of ways, and they're still very much the captain leader of that whole era of both Ian with cricket and Winnie. Still, he knows everything still from WA, what's going on. All of a sudden you'll get a message or something from 2-8 just checking up on someone, and he's just got a heart of gold too, Winnie, and people just don't realise that either. Yeah,
do you know, it's interesting, Malcolm, you say that. When I was 15 and, you're still trying to find your way and you're playing, junior Colts at Norwood, and he just said one thing I always remember. He said, listen, son, he said, if you ever played league footy, I'll look after you. And, to his word, he looked after me for 3 or 4 years until I started to, build my strength and my running power and play senior footy every week. And I could never forget that, what he told me. And he did. He just looked after me.
And, of course, you did play an under-19s premiership where we we absolutely annihilated Port Adelaide, winning by a point.
Yeah, that was interesting because out of that, the 17s the previous year, I think we lost our first 9 games, I think, under Mal Smith, and then we won our next 11. And you could see something special there. And
yep.
a lot of those kids that played in that team went to Bob Farnham, and we happened to play Port at Adelaide Oval, and we actually won by a point. So it was just, I could still remember it like it's yesterday, and it was just a wonderful feeling. And that was the sealant for many things to happen, what's going to happen in the next few years. So, and we were blessed at Norwood with wonderful junior coaches, their setups and how they coached us and got us ready to go to the next level.
Did you have some Port Adelaide guys in that Colts premiership there that you did just get over the line with? Did you end up playing against them a little bit later on in league footy as well?
There wasn't too many. There's more Norwood, I think. I played on Russell Ebert's brother, Brett Ebert. But he was their captain. I remember I didn't say much on the field at that age, and I remember he's come and said, "I'm going to kill you today." I said, "Fair enough, do what you want." But certainly, he's about the only one I can remember that went on to play league footy, I reckon. I can't remember too many others. There could have been a few, but Norwood had a lot that went out of that premiership team into play league footy.
Your debut, Kingo, I admit, I'm trying to remember go through your debut.
It was against Port Adelaide.
Yeah, it was against Port Adelaide. It's interesting, but the first game was against Port Adelaide in 72. My last game was against Port Adelaide as well. So I think I played the 200th against Port as well. So there's a bit of a connection there, isn't it? So
we love our Port Adelaide listeners.
Well, they're a very good club.
They are.
But certainly the rivalry there between Port and Norwood, of course, is huge.
It's fantastic.
It's like Collingwood Carlton, really. So, but certainly, 72. That's when I started against Port Adelaide. Yep.
How many games did you play in that first year that you debuted? If you can remember,
I reckon I played most of the season. I played a few seconds games, I think. Yeah. I reckon I played most senior games. I think. Yeah, there was might have been 4 or 5 seconds, and the rest seniors. Yep.
Now go through, righto, Kingo, the great day in 75, so we win our first premierships in 25 years, but a certain bit of frustration and understandable frustration, King. I think you hurt your ankle pretty early. You went from the back pocket to half-forward line, swapped with Mocha Dunstan and sort of limped your way through. I think you had about eight injections trying to get you through. So we'd won, but there was a bit of mixed feelings there, a little, you obviously pumped that we won. Not mixed feelings, that's probably not the right word, but a bit of frustration that you weren't able to show your whole talent on the big day.
I was on one leg for 3.5 quarters, so I was appreciative of Bob keeping me on. He could see I was in trouble, and I was in trouble, big time, and but certainly he had the wisdom to keep me on. I still contributed, I thought.
Yes.
So, but I didn't play. I couldn't play at my best. I just couldn't. I was going on about as a V8 would go. I was going on about 3 cylinders, I think. So
had a good start to the second quarter. You combined with Tubby a couple of times, and
and I set a few goals up. I missed 2, I think, 2 goals, what I can remember. So, but certainly it's a very windy day. But no, I was appreciative of Bob just leaving me on because I thought I'd be coming off, and Brian Sando gave me some help.
Yes. Then at 76, 77, we probably underachieved a little bit. But let's go through 78. It's Norwood Centenary year. Mm-hmm. Recruit heavily. The argy bargy, and finally getting Brian Adamson over the line. And that now, I will be honest. One of our previous guests has already alluded about the day before. Woody did. We did talk a little bit about the day before. Now, you probably didn't get treated with the respect you deserved the day before, and may have just lit a little bit more of a fire in you, Kingo.
Oh, I think so. I won't mention the person's name, but I had to travel a fair way to do a promo, and which I felt the person wouldn't come halfway to meet me, and then I got to the place and I had to walk 4K to find him. So, and then the photographer took the picture. It was on the front page of the news the next day, and And I just felt there might be some karma in this. So and at the end of the day, there was. So,
yes.
But I don't hold any grudges with that. But at the time, I wasn't all that pleased with it. But you got to do what you got to do to promote the game, and I think you'd go anywhere to promote it. But I just thought it was the day before the game was a bit off. But certainly at the end of the day, we had that wonderful win.
Obviously, it was Nord's centenary year. It was actually the year of my birth, so I'm just wondering whether...
wish it was the year of mine.
Does it go? Yeah.
I'm just wondering if any celebrations, obviously, during the season were front of mind for you guys, that it was the centenary year?
Oh, yeah, I think so. Yeah, for sure. I think that whole year was pretty special. I think that we weren't favourites at all, but certainly at the end of the day, it's on the day, isn't it?
And a fantastic last quarter.
Well, it's just the best. It's the best footy I've seen in 15 minutes ever. It was just it was just humming out of there, and Curbs and Craigie and Winnie, and it was a combination of wow, this is what's this? It was just one out of the box, and from that point of view, I think we still had 10 minutes to go when we hit the front, so we had to hang on there.
Yeah, it was quite crazy. If anything, we hit the front too early. So.
Yes, we did. Absolutely. There was still 8 or 9 minutes to go.
Now, this is probably something I've never told you, Kingo, too, that I went to Norwood High. Norwood High, of all schools, having a bloody school camp on grand final day. You can imagine my thoughts. Yeah, I've really got over that too, Pig's ass. So, yes.
It's a bit rough.
Yes. But, and it was just, to get up, and both reserves and league winning as well. So it was just obviously a really special time. Winnie saying hello to Jack in the box, and just a great result. Yeah,
it was. And look, they kicked a lot of points, but you can kick as many points as you like, but you got to kick goals, don't you? So, but at the end of the day, you can rule what happened in the first quarter, but at the end of the day, if you're in front, you're the winners. And it was a game where they come in right. You couldn't back them, really, honestly. Yeah. And they'd only lost one game for the year against Westies. So, and we'd played them twice and hadn't beaten them. So, but they had star-studded players everywhere, but we just played as a team and just put things together and never gave up. And that's the whole idea about sport. Never ever give up, ever.
And I will say, we'll get to 80 later, but if there's a certain person we're speaking to at the moment, it's pretty unlucky that the Jack Odie medal wasn't around then, because I've got no doubt whatsoever that Michael Taylor would be in possession of 2 of them. So,
it's interesting. We talked a little bit earlier on, actually, in our podcast, that teams are letting teams hang in there a little bit longer with some inaccurate kicking, and it doesn't matter when it is, it's always going to come back to burn you a little bit.
Oh, absolutely. It's a massive turnover, isn't it, when you think about it? So virtually kick a point, you give the opposition a kick out. So, it just is. It's a double whammy. So from that point of view, and you just can't miss from it close in. You just can't. It's just the backmen and the on-ballers work so hard to get the ball up there. And the reason you play up forward is kick goals. Simple as that. You're not there to stop the ball. You're there to win the ball and put 6 points on them. And that's right. You've seen so many matches that are lost by too many points, for sure.
And of course, while then after that, for mine, the forgotten premiership a little bit amongst Norwood people was the night final win, which was a great game against Perth, where David Armour played against us, and getting up by 8 points in Trevor Sapple's finest hour. I reckon that's forgotten a little bit, that flag.
Yeah, I think
it's a huge achievement.
Yeah, it is a huge. There's a couple of games that we beat Carlton through that period as well, easily. And I know they had a few out, but for them to come over here and we beat them easily, and for that Ardith Cup win, that's huge when you think about it. From the point of view that we had to do qualifications all the way through, and that was a great game. And if you look at their team. A lot of those guys that played in their team, 3 or 4 of them played in the VFL AFL. So,
Glendenning, Kelly, McCowcheck, Melrose.
Yeah, absolutely. And they were very good players in the AFL and the VFL, weren't they? Extremely good players.
Very much so.
Yeah, no, that was a ripper win, that one. Yep.
Sticking the knife in. I'm a little bit of a Carlton supporter there. Yes, we weren't too good. We did talk about it on one of our other podcasts with a special guest, yes, about how the change of numbers totally confused them and it worked to your advantage. Mate, coaches during your time at Norwood, let's just go through a couple of them that you had.
Yeah, certainly. I think you go way back. Mal Smith was a ripper. Bob Farnham, of course. When he finished coaching, he got a lot of premierships in the under-19s and virtually had a pathway for the kids to play league footy. And I think Malcolm had something like, 15 or 20 players that went on to play league footy at length. Bob Farnham had more than that. Then Bob went on to be chairman selectors and he certainly was the face of Norwood for many, many, many years. And, of course, Robert Odie, he was a wonderful coach on school level, and his thought process as a kid, it just suited me down to the ground and what he taught me. And then we had Bob Hammond, who was pretty tough. Of course, he was a ex-full back player and had success at North Adelaide as a captain, and he was a leader like you've never seen. And he was a wonderful coach, Bob. He only coached us for 6 years, so... it's not long. And he took us to 2 premierships, and we always played finals with Bob. And then, of course, Neil Barn speaks for itself. He's an incredible person, and he was a very good coach. So I should say we, just not me, but we were very fortunate to have such wonderful coaches at the time, and how they coached us and mentored us. It was just a wonderful era.
Then 1980, so... When Barmy arrives, we started slowly. As Barmy said himself, he had Royce Hart at Richmond, get it and kick it long and kick it to Royce. And we had to realise that, had to be involved a bit. And so Stazza, Bruce Winter, some of the more senior players got really involved there in changing us up. And then we came home with an absolute train in the 80 final series. Go back to that. And we did go from strength to strength in that final series.
Yeah, we did. I think poor old Barmy, a few players had retired and they went to other clubs or what, but they left the club. There was a lot of players that left after the end of Bob Hammond's tender, and he had to rebuild. And you talk about rebuilds. Well, he rebuilt that in one pre-season. So, and of course we started slow, and then a lot of people thought we wouldn't even play finals, and then we came home with just kept winning and winning and winning, and we came from 5th that year, and we won the next 3 finals pretty well, and then come up against Port, who I believe, and even talking to Russell Ebert about it, it's the best side they've ever had.
Yeah, that's what I thought as well.
And I think out of their team, I think there was 9 or 10 state players in it.
Yeah.
With Greg Phillips and, Brian
Evans,
Cunningham.
Cunningham, Cale, Tony Giles.
Tony Giles. So I think there's 10 or 11, I think, that I played state footy that year with. So, and I suppose for us to but once you get to the big dance, you've got to produce, and we didn't quite have enough juice left in us.
I will say out of that, you played one of the great individual games, as Russell Ebert said. His exact words were one night at a fundraising night for a Labour charity, talking to him, biggest pants down job I copped in my life from Kingo that day. It was Russell's exact words.
Well, that's pretty cool coming from that great man.
Yeah. And I do remember that night. So I was actually only 17 on that, but I spent a fair bit of that night with you, Kingo, and you kept blaming yourself. The handball Kim Kinnear intercepted, and that when we were run on in the last quarter and very nearly ran over him. And I think I actually went, Jesus, Kingo, you've absolutely annihilated Russell Ebert. You're best on ground by the length of Morfettville straight, and you're still bloody blaming yourself. Have another beer, will you?
To a degree, because I had 2 options, and I should have done the first option. And to this day, I do regret that I didn't find the first option. I should have found Turbs on the left, and I didn't. I tried to go over the top into space to someone else.
Jenkins,
Yeah, and I just thought there was space there, and Turbs might have ran into a brick wall, but it was just the vision I had was And he only got a fingertip to it, but he did it pretty well. And they didn't get a goal out of it, but stopped the momentum. That was the most we went forward 2 or 3 times after that, but it just stopped our momentum. And I just felt that, as you know, ball sports is always momentum, and we had them on. They were crapping themselves, I'm telling you, out there, because I just thought they'd turn up and win. Especially us coming off 3 hard finals, and they'd won the second semi and had a rest. That's the main thing. I was disappointed in myself, because if I did that again, which I can't, but I'd always find the other option to Turbs. I just would,
Well, if Hugo hadn't had the work accident as well,
there's a few things.
We were pretty unlucky on a few things. Mocker gets caught holding the ball by Abernethy where he should have kicked it to Black Duck. So
and we didn't have Neil Button either. So he'd hurt his ankle, and he was a gun ruckman for us.
Yeah.
So
big finals record.
Yeah, exactly. It's so true. And he's just a rocket Travolta. He is good when he played. You could just rely on him. Yeah.
So 81, you decide, Collingwood you've been chased for a long time, and you finally take the trip over to the border, and you experience it at Collingwood too, where twice runner-up in the Copeland, I may add, Pete, and illustrious Tony Shaw does make the point that he believes that Michael should have won both years. So I think that's a fair rap as well.
Well, I was very apprehensive with it. I was 27 years of age, so I was pretty apprehensive to go. And I'd already been, Hawthorn had been after me, Carlton had been after me, and then Collingwood for the last 2 or 3 years of my career at Norwood. So those 3 years, and I just thought I was just too old. And I spoke to Barmy about it, and he didn't want to lose me, but certainly speaking to Neil just coming out of the VFL at the time, and of course he'd been coached by Tommy Hafey, and he just believed that my game, Tommy would suit Tommy's coaching style, and toing and fromming, and I was very up front with Norwood all the way through, because they're just the most fantastic club to me, and still are today. So, and they spoke to Wally, and we come to an arrangement, and I was only going to go for 1 year. I just loved it over there, and I learnt so much. Even though I was 27, I felt like I was 18 again, and and we played in the grand final the first year, and we lost to Carlton, which is disappointing. But just going over that massive big club and the people there, and being coached by Tom Hafey was just a dream, a total dream. Yeah.
We got one back, Carlton got one back, you little beauty. Mate, what was it like playing at Victoria Park?
It was all right for me. I'm about the opposition. It was fine. I think it was, we're like heroes to them, honestly. Like you go to, you play on a Saturday at Victoria Park, and, certainly the support you get, it's an amazing support base they've got. And, even my first year over there, we did a pre-season at Stawell, and they had to close the gates at 11 o'clock in the day because they couldn't put any more people in, just in a trial game. So, and if you make finals through that era, of course, on a Thursday night training for a final, there'd be thousands and thousands of people there watching your training. So, I certainly got great memories of it, as a player that. And even, we'd play on a Saturday and go to rehab on a Sunday. We have to, Tommy'd make us run the streets a bit, and there'd be all supporters out there clapping you as you run past their house, So it's huge. It's just massive. Yeah.
Amazing how the SANFL clubs and the VFL clubs back in the day were very similar.
Yeah, exactly. So true. Absolutely. And I suppose where you've got great big support base, you go and play a game at Waverley, and there's 94,000 people, or the grand final. There was I think that was 81 was the last year of standing room at the MCG. There's 115,000 people there, so it certainly gives you a buzz.
And how long? Just so staying there, and then deciding to come back to Norwood.
Yeah, I was only going to go for one. I ended up doing 4. And then I just felt it was time, young family, before the kids started school, to come back to Norwood. and that was in '85. So, and spoke to Barmy. Barmy kept in contact with me all the way through, and so did Wally. And they would always give me a buzz or catch up when they went over there. So, kept me informed. Always keep an eye on what Norwood were doing. So I came back in end of '84, and then because Jack coached me for 2 years at Collingwood, which I enjoyed under John Cale, and we just played in the preliminary final '84, which we won't talk about that. Essendon flogged us, and we beat Carlton the week before, which is great.
I'm down again
at Waverley. So and then Essendon went on to win the grand final that year. So I think it was the Baby Bombers. I think the press were calling them, and then came back to in '85, and I was going to finish my career at Norwood, and I spent the next 3 years there playing. Yep. And
came back like a well-oiled machine, winning the BNF in '86 as well, Kingo.
Yeah, I suppose from that point of view, I brought back a bit of knowledge with me, and a few smarts, and I was getting older, of course. The body was slowing down a bit, which it does. But I enjoyed those 3 years. Yep.
Had the competition here in the SANFL changed a lot for your couple of years that you did go over to Victoria?
No, pretty similar. It was the VFL at that stage was a lot quicker, and they were very, if you got hit pretty hard. But certainly, no, the SANFL system in those days, the school level was just as easy, just as equal as the VFL. It just was. But teams used to, their fitness was a bit different back then. So, but overall, it wasn't as from start to finish. You get a lot more tired playing VFL than you would SANFL. Yeah.
And then getting into the coaching side of things, and back to Vic Park, mate.
Yeah, that was interesting. In '87 we played Port in a final, and that was my last game.
You did a corky, I reckon.
A massive cork. Macca gave me this hospital handball, and Darren Smith ran straight through me and collected my thigh, and mate, it bled for about 3 weeks. So I didn't play again that year. And Garvey Allen, who I played with at Collingwood, he was a football manager at Collingwood.
Yep.
He rang me out of the blue and said him and Lee Matthews were coming over to watch Norwood play Port. Can we catch up afterwards? I said, yeah, no problems at all. Just to have a quiet ale. And I said, I'll catch at the footy club, which they came there. And then Lee just said to me on the side, I need to chat to you. And he said, look, I want you to come over and play in the twos and coach. I said, nah, not doing that, mate. No way. Because I played on Lee a lot in the VFL. Yep. Every time Collingwood played Hawthorn, I'd virtually match up on him, and he wasn't my favourite player. So, and I said, look, mate, I played against you, and why would I want to work for you? And anyway, that went on for about a month, and Gubby kept ringing me, pestering me all the time, and they put something to me, and I had my own business here in Adelaide, so I didn't want to really, lose that. So had to put things in place for that, and then we made the shift over there, and man, did I enjoy that. Wow, I played in the twos and coached, and then I helped Lee in the seniors. So it was a massive role, but I just loved it. Yep. Just loved it.
Pete, here's one you won't know about, Pete.
Nope. So fire away.
Yep. So 1990, Collingwood have an internal. Now, Michael's very modest about himself and all that, but I have also spoken to a couple of people who were there, Kingo, that watching, that you may have given Darren Mullane a bit of a lesson, and Lee Matthews virtually begged you to play in the finals and that, and you went, no, that's not what I came here for, and you very well, if you could have been a member of the Collingwood 1990 Premiership side.
Yeah, we had a trial game midweek, I think, one that year, and Pants, that's just Darren's nickname.
Yep.
We played on each other, and I did okay on him, but Lee's eyes popped out of his head. Said afterwards to me, I come out of the shower, and I think we're picking a team. He said, well, I'm picking you. I said, no, you're not. So, and that conversation, I put a seal on it straight away. I said, well, just hang on. You brought me over here to coach the twos, teach the kids, and get them ready for senior footy. I said, I'm not here to play senior footy. And he wasn't too happy, but certainly at the end of the day, it was the right decision. It just was, because I wasn't there to take someone's spot. Just no way.
Now, 1990 grand final night, I may have deliberately worn to Vic Park, deliberately worn a Norwood top, and went and told the person on the door that I was Rodney Maynard and I'd signed to play for Collingwood the next year. I got taken straight through to the players only function. I walked up to Ned. We'll leave the language out, but Ned, mate, this is meant the biggest night of my life, and I'm bloody drinking with you. And I reminded Ned that it was a privilege, but I actually only stayed for a couple. I didn't actually run into you. I just saw Tony Francis very briefly and all that. And went out, joined my mates being outside. I just did it as a bit of a joke to prove that you could talk bullshit and get in anywhere, Kingo.
Yeah. So, well, that's right. Exactly right. That Dawn was pretty dumb, isn't he? So anyway, although I'll put it on the opposite side, he's a nice person. There you go. So, yeah.
Mate, we'll rewind just a little bit. Your state representation. Let us in on some of your state games that you played.
I think I played 13. I think so. It was good. I had Curls as coach and Hayden Bunton as coach, and mainly Neil Curley as coach. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that was interesting. Yeah, he could coach. Curls, he was a ripper to play for. So, but one of the games I do remember, we played Western Australia. We hadn't beaten them for 60 odd years, I think it was. 60 something years,
and ridiculous time.
Yeah, anyway, we flew over there, and it was interesting. We trained on the Friday afternoon before the game, and Kills just said to us, look, just go out and have a bit of fun and kick the ball on the ground and just muck around, and don't take it too serious, and just from jet lag, and so we did that, and the press hounded us the next day. These blokes can't play; they're useless. They can't kick, they can't handball, and
genius.
Our boys are going to win easily. Well, bucking me, we beat them. And it was just fantastic, and to see the look on players after the game, and to see the hierarchy so happy, because we hadn't won there for over, I think it's 59 or 60 years, which is a fair time. So, and that was one of the games I do remember massive. Yeah. Just very vividly, yeah.
Who was a couple of teammates that you just absolutely hated playing against but loved playing with in the state game?
Oh, look, I didn't have a love-hate relationship with any players. I'm a bit boring.
I say that quite lovingly towards those players, but obviously there's some players that you just go far out. They've played really well against me today, but I can't wait to play with them.
Oh, look, I think if you look at the top inch, like Russell Ebert and those guys, and Brian Cunningham, and the list goes on. Because they're gun players, so if you put a squad together, the coach really doesn't have to coach. I've coached the state team, and what you're doing is getting the top-notch players in to play footy, and you don't have to tell them too much. Just put them in their right positions, and they know what to do. But I think if you look through all the state teams way back, and mate, they're the cream of the cream. They just are, and you can't wait. Baggy and Cornsey, and the list goes on and on and on. So Super, it's Peter Carey, and so, and there's a few players coming in and out. But if you look at the duration when you start to finish, you play a lot of games, about 7 or 8 of them all the time. So they're such good players. So, but certainly I didn't. Not much love-hate relationship with most of them.
So, Kingo, and then after that, so ending up back as an assistant coach at Adelaide, the whole start of the Crows, Cornsey obviously and that, but go through a bit of experiences of that.
Yeah, well, that was Bob Ham was talking me through 90. What are you doing next year and all that? I said, I don't know yet, and from that point of view, and I just said, look, I really don't know. And he just said, look, we're putting a side together, and this is where we're at. We've got no coaches yet, and but as time, he said, I'll get back to you, because Bob was a wonderful organizer and leader and of men, and he had his own company, of course, and was very successful in that away from footy. So. And he just kept in contact with me. Then they appointed Cornsey. Then Cornsey rang me out of the blue, and he said, we'll come over, fly over, and we'll get together and have a chat and just see how we go. And I said, yep, no worries. So I flew over and spent the day with Graham, and we went through everything, what was going to happen and how they're going to set things up. And from that point of view, I was very impressed what he was telling me. And then I went back to Melbourne and spoke to my wife and the kids. The kids are, a bit older then, and they thumbs up, and we came back, and the Crows were formed in '91. So, and they had a wonderful setup there. Their setup for weights and all other things weren't too flash, but certainly the way JC had organised it with Cornsey and the crew, it was very professional. And I think we had 70 players, to train. And that was hard work because it was getting to full time then. And I think we're training 13 days out of 14. We give them 1 day off every fortnight. So
that was generous.
Exactly. Well, we had to do that because if you look at the fitness level, we had to get to a certain level. And so then I think that went from 70 to 52, I think.
Yep.
From that point of view, and we had restrictions on who we could recruit and all that type of thing. So we had to make the most of what we had. So, and I think we, that season, I think the first game was against Hawthorn, and we gave them a bit of a shock. So
sure did.
But it was hard work because a lot of these guys have never flown to Sydney or Melbourne or Perth. So if you look at that, you're going away, then you're staying at a hotel, and you from that you're away from your family and your friends and that. So there's an adjustment there to start with. A lot of the games in Melbourne were played at suburban ovals, Moorabbin, Windy Hill, Victoria Park. So they've never been there. So we'd always try and get there. The day we flew into Melbourne, try and take the bus out of Tullamarine and always organise to go to an oval, so the guys get familiar with it. So, but certainly, I know the funny story with Graham Allen. I rang Gubby before we played Collingwood, Victoria Park, and I said to Gub, look, we're coming in on Friday morning. Can we just cruise past before we go to the hotel to look at the goats? He said, no, you're not coming in. I said, sorry? He said, no. He said, no way. He said, not to let you bees bloody come in here and look at our oval. I said, well, most of the players haven't even seen the place. He said, I don't give a hell. You're not coming in. I said, okay. Little did Gubby know, I knew the curator extremely well. So I rang the curator up and I said, mate, listen, I didn't tell him I spoke to Gubby. And I said, look, we're coming at this time. He said, can you unlock the back gates for me? I wasn't going to go around the front where Gubby works. I said, open the back gates up for me. We'll go around the back street and we'll go in and take the players in. He said, no worries, Mick, I'll do that. I said, what time will you be? I said, about 11:30. So off we go. And Cornsey says to me, you sure you organised? I said, yeah. I told him the story. He said, Gubby might go and lock the gate. I said, Gubby knows nothing about it. So in we go. We've all gone on to Victoria Park, and there's Gubby's coming out of his office. Well, is he giving it to me? It's absolutely. You traitor, you. It was quite funny.
Oh, no, that's very well played, Kingo.
Exactly. So, but little did Gubby know that I knew the curator quite well. So he organised, and I thanked the curator after. It didn't help us, but certainly it was a bit of a step forwards for the boys to see the ground.
Wasn't the same guy that was on security there to let Malcom in, was it?
Might have been a cousin, I reckon.
Fair point.
Obviously, with the formation of the Crows, the obvious question is, Michael Aish and Gary McIntosh obviously being part of that squad. I'm sure Cornsey would have been hoping that they were going to be part of it.
Oh, absolutely. And I think it's up to the individual player whether they come or not come.
Don't worry, Aishi's dark that he wasn't a part of the original squad. Aishi didn't get picked.
Right.
No,
Macca did, yeah.
Macca wanted to. Macca didn't want to, yeah.
No, I don't know why Aishi didn't. So,
yeah.
But certainly Macca did for sure. I know that. So, but at the end of the day, I suppose Macca didn't want to come, and that was his whatever he wanted to do, and that's fair enough too. Because I think if you go there, especially in those early days, the training is extremely hard. It's just really, really hard, and these guys are working as well and got young families and all that. So, you got to contribute, and if you don't, well, it's if you don't turn up for training and train over 13 out of 14 days, you're not going to make it. Yep.
And, of course, for after the Crows experience, well, the 93 prelim, we won't talk about that.
No, let's talk about that for a second.
No, I don't want to talk about that. Oh,
let us in. What happened there? Let the listeners know what actually did happen there.
Oh, they were just too good. We're 6 up at half time?
7 up.
Or 7? 7 up, were we? Yeah, so, yeah, I'll put that against, I don't remember that one too much. But I certainly, they just, I think Michael Long come along and a few others, Tim Watson and a few others just geared up a bit and went to another level, and Jars missed that goal in that quarter, and he's still can't get over that, but certainly can't blame him for that. But gee whiz, did we play well in the first half?
Oh, first half's probably the best footy I've ever seen. I've always said
that. And they got a real shock, I think, from that, but they went in to win the Premiership. So it's one that I think it was if you look back onto it, it was, people say things happen for a reason, but I don't believe in that too much, but that one did really get away from us. Yeah. That hurt us badly, very badly.
No doubt about that.
And that would have been a fantastic achievement, obviously, coming into the AFL third or fourth year of everyone together.
It's only our third year, and then there's clubs that have been there 100 years and won one premiership.
Yep.
So the Carlton game hurt us a bit. We kicked so many points. We kicked, I think, 9-20 or something. I think we kicked. So. If we kicked a bit straighter that day, we weren't out of that game at all. We beat Hawthorn the week before, of course. Because I think in those days, because your fours and against was certain levels, you could get a second chance. Yeah, so because Carlton did beat us, I think, and they did. Yeah, so then we played Essendon in a prelim final.
Yeah, a previous guest on our show, Sean Tasker, speaks very frustratingly that day. Tasker had probably about 4 shots where his kick was fine and it just got touched or marked on the line, and so he didn't have much luck. And he got dropped after that game, which, let's just say, he hasn't really got over.
It was bamboozling from our point of view as well.
So it was a bit of frustration there as well. And of course, after that, you probably you ended up coaching at West Adelaide, where a club which you're held in fantastic regard, and you speak fondly of your time at the Bloods, Kingo.
Yeah, I do. I went there, and certainly, whoever's. I'm a great believer in whoever's done it before, you move on and don't go back. I think you've got to go in there, and you're the head fella, and you've got to put your stamp on it. And I think I enjoyed myself immensely there for 5 years. It was just, not trying to complain, but it was extremely hard with my work because I had massive business and lots of people to look after at work, and I was doing an enormous amount of hours over that period. And I think I did it for 5 years, and I should have done it longer, but I was worn out, mentally and physically. But certainly, I did enjoy West Adelaide immensely. I enjoyed coaching the players I coached there and the administration, and I can't say a bad word against Doug Thomas at all. I had a wonderful president, Dion McCaffrey, and the catering group were wonderful, and I can't speak highly enough of West Adelaide. We nearly got to the big dance once. I think out of 5 years we made finals a few times. So we won more than we lost, which I was very pleased. And certainly, from the junior development, I spent a lot of time through the Riverland and our zones. And, at one stage, we'd hardly get anyone down from the Riverland. I spent every, by the Riverland and long weekends at the Riverland. And my second year there, we got 22 players down, which I was really happy.
Oh, that's fantastic,
Yeah, and out of the 22, I think a couple of them went on to play AFL footy. So, the country people need to see you, and I was extremely big on that. And don't forget, you're going there to Maine. You can't talk about what you do in the city.
Yep.
You're talking about what they're doing. And I've come from the country, and you've got to talk about them, not you, from that point of view. So I'll give a big tick there, I reckon, from that point of view. But I did really enjoy Westies. I did.
And then, of course, after that, footy director back at Norwood. You had a significant influence there. Yeah. Go through that side of things, Kingo.
Yeah, then I had a bit of a break. I did radio for a few years on the ABC,
right.
which I loved. And then, of course, I got an opportunity to go back through Keith Thomas. Tomo ran me out of the blue and said we need a bit of a help behind the scenes. And and I wasn't that interested to start with, but being my old club, I thought, I'll sit down with him and have a chat. And he had this vision, and what vision he had, he did a wonderful job there with the help from a lot of people and just putting key people in certain places and, to be seen and not heard. And that's what we did, so, and never brag about your wins and get on to the next win. So, from that point of view, there was certain positional changes and put people in certain roles. And then, of course, we put Bass in as coach.
Yep.
And history shows wonderful coach Bass, and he had 3 premierships out of 5 years. So, and then Ben Warren came along and got us another premiership, and he'd lost 14 players from the year before. So, but the history there is a wonderful club, and the wonderful people still are there today. So, if you look at how to run a footy club, just knock on their door.
You gave us an extra flag then, Kingo, but we won't object to that. We'll add that one on. Bass had 2. So it just, in terms of your overall footy experience, it was such a long experience. Like, you very nearly played the 400 senior games, and huge involvement. It really has been a lifelong involvement with the game, basically, Kingo.
Well, it has. It's been my life, and I always dreamt about playing footy, as a young kid. And if I was good enough and I just had opportunities at the right time. And I'm so grateful for all the people I've met through the game from start to even today, So if you look at the longevity, I think you've got to don't get ahead of yourself. You're there for a certain reason, and the reason is to, either as a player or administrator or coach, your time can be very short, but you can make it long if you want. And I just think, don't gloat on your wins and just work hard. And I just think, and be very, very grateful what people do for you, and be appreciative of everything they've done. And I've always been that way. And
very much
I'll say it again: don't get a big head, because if you look through your life, your footy career is very short. And I've always thought that. I've always had plan B and plan C in my head. And if you're good enough to play at that level, make the most of it while you're there, because the next generation's coming through. It always is. And if you do, coach at all, just throw everything into it and teach people how to play footy, and that's very important. And
I know, obviously, you don't play for individual accolades, but your induction into the Australian Hall of Fame in 2022?
Yeah, I got a phone call last year, and
took us 10 years to get you through, Kingo, too, by the way.
But I was happy to be, like, with Norwood, just happy to be life man of the SANFL, Norwood Team of the Century, and Hall of Fame at Norwood, and being legend status at Norwood was just wonderful, being a legend there. And then I got the call from Richard, last year, and I was a bit speechless at the time, and I can guarantee I don't cry very often, but I'd hang the phone up, and always I started crying my eyes out, because I just thought back to what Mum and Dad had done for me way back as a 13 and 14-year-old. I had no licence, of course. I couldn't drive at 13, but I used to travel, take me everywhere with the girls and playing everywhere, and just all the coaches that had helped me, and it just all floods back, and all the the members of footy clubs, and just how grateful you are to them. And if it wasn't, it's not an individual sport; it's a team sport, and you can't do it by yourself. And it just it's the biggest thing I've ever been to. And I invited all my family, and my sister came over from London for it, which I was so appreciative for her doing that. So, and they treat you like you'd never seen before. They just treated me so well, and all those. It's interesting. On that night, there was 3 29s inducted into the Hall of Fame. So, the Boomer Harvey, and then Matthew Pellich and myself, and it was just ironic that those three numbers were actually in that night. I could just always remember saying, it's 3 29s. That's interesting. But certainly it's a big night for your families, and to celebrate massively, and I'll never forget it.
I was going to say, to finish us off, get you out of here on this one, was who did you want to thank? But I think you've already covered it there, that family has certainly stood by you right through. One other very important point. The Norwood Best and Fairest is now quite rightly named the Michael Taylor Medal. And, let's just, that's obviously a big
tick, and something you should justifiably be proud of as well.
Yeah, I'm very honoured from that. Absolutely, Malcolm. I just, that for them to do that and put my name to that medal is amazing. And I thank everyone through from start to finish. And I think you never forget my mum always told me as a young kid, never forget where you come from, son. And that's so true, and don't get ahead of yourself. Be who you are and work hard, and things will happen.
I will say, as a supporter, that's something you've always done, Kingo. Always had time for everyone.
Yep.
Remember going to get petrol one night, ran into Kingo, only got home an hour and a quarter later, and the other half wanted to know what the hell had happened. We had a chat. Kingo's always been fantastic like that. Appreciate always your friendship over the years, Kingo, and thank you, and greatly appreciate it for being on the show and on a sensational career. Thank you.
Thanks, Malcolm. Thanks, Peter.
Thank you, mate. It's been an absolute pleasure to regale some of those stories with you, mate. And a couple of years, obviously, I wasn't born, but I love my Redlegs. I love my Redlegs just as much as the Blues, so that's okay.
That's gold. That's gold. Thank you, Peter. Cheers, mate.
Thanks, Kingo.
Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Welcome back. Michael Taylor, absolutely fantastic with some of those stories, Malcolm, about obviously the 75 and 78 premierships, heading over to Collingwood, coming back to Norwood, and obviously some time with the Crows. And
at West Adelaide, footy director as well. Such a rich life in footy, and, someone I respect enormously, and, can't rate him just so highly as a person. When
you think of Norwood, obviously two influential peoples through some of these AFL teams now, and also the SANFL, was Neil Baum and Michael Taylor, by the sounds of it.
Yeah, and Wally Miller.
Yep.
Yeah, there's been, Wally Miller's incredible administrator.
Leadership seems to be the key word that comes out from these guys. They enjoy each other's leadership, and taking under the wing there for a little while. 2-8 was kind enough to help Kingo out, and his leadership was certainly shone through when Kingo was talking about it.
Yeah, he's a great man.
Liking this podcast? Please like, rate, and subscribe. Happy days.
And to kick off happy days today, mate, happy birthday to a Port Adelaide great man, Scotty Hodges.
Oh, I want it, as much as I hate to say it, that kick in 96.
Yes.
I was actually in hospital at the time. I was pretty crook. And when Hodges kicked that goal, let's just say a radio may have pulled off second best. And the nurse ran into the room because she thought I'd collapsed, and was very relieved. And went, as football is that all? And let's just say I was no way in the world I was going to win Burnside Hospital Patient of the Month award.
Absolutely. So. Obviously playing for the Port Adelaide Magpies Footy Club, but also for the Crows. He played between 1987 and 1998 at Port Adelaide. 167 games for 671 goals.
Oh, he's one of the all-time greats. The 153 goals, the McGarry medal, fantastic kick. Probably wasn't appreciated enough as he could have been at Adelaide, could have been used better. Mm-hmm. Also coincide with Modra as well.
Well, that was what I was going to say. He sort of came in at the time where Modra was firing, wasn't he?
I think it still could have been done better than what it was.
Obviously played in 1996 for the Crows, 38 from 1996. Played 38 games for 100 goals in total.
Yeah, which is still...
It's a special achievement, really, isn't it?
He kicked 11 against Geelong one day. Look, his finals record for Port Adelaide was just amazing. 6 goals on one leg in one year, and breaking Rick Davies' record, which Rick Davies was in tears about. He wasn't celebrating it. And look, one of the greats.
8-time premiership player for Port Adelaide Magpies, 1988, 90, 92, 94, 95, 96 and 98. Geez, the 90s were pretty good to Scotty Hodges, weren't they?
Yeah, a few painful memories there.
One
of the greats.
McGarry medalist in 1990 as well. I could go on. These stats are unbelievable. Love to get him on to have a bit of a chat, but we'll see how we go there. All right, we move on. In 2003, tennis, Andre Agassi recaptures the world #1 ranking, becoming the oldest top-ranked male in the history of the ATP rankings of 33 years and 13 days at that time. Yes.
I was going to say since, but it's funny, you look at that and think 33 is not that old. Yeah, but back then it did seem it was almost a little bit like the thought process in footy back then. Mm-hmm. Don't dare turn 30.
Yes.
So it's a bit there where probably training's improved, diet, all that recovery, all that side of things, and people now go longer.
Absolutely. I mean, we talk about that from a tennis point of view. We'll flip it back on the footy point of view. You know, some of these guys like Sloane Walker, you know, getting in their mid-30s, but because their dietary and their exercise regime and recovery routine has just been so good, it's extending their careers. But you're right, there'd been plenty of players changing their birth certificates to try and get the age below 30 back in the day, but now it's almost a badge of honour.
Let's also not forget what Andre Agassi achieved off court, marrying Steffi Graf. He's I call that a number one ranking as well.
He is paired up quite well, and that all actually happened from a Wimbledon. They both won the Wimbledon final, and as part of the tradition, they've got to dance with each other at the Wimbledon ball, and it all sort of stemmed and flowed from there, which is just amazing when you think about it.
Bizarre.
2003 as well, mate. Cricket World Cup, Bridgetown, Barbados. Australia defeats Sri Lanka by 53 runs to win their third consecutive World Cup. Glenn McGrath. Glenn McGrath named Player of the Series.
Yeah, had a huge series. I'm trying to remember if that was the final where it finished in the dark and that. Trying to remember there. Yeah, I reckon that might have been the one where Gilchrist walked. So just trying to remember off the top of my head.
I think you're right, actually. Yeah,
where the controversy, whether they weren't too happy with him.
Absolutely. One of the fairest guys going around, isn't it?
So, but a great win by Australia in the end. Yeah, and they certainly were the dominant side on those World Cups.
And I know you'll know this being a cricket man, but some of our listeners may not. But Glenn McGrath could almost tell you exactly who he got on what wicket, no matter where and when and where it was.
Yeah, someone after my own heart, obviously there, being a fellow stats lunatic. Yeah, no, he can. So, Glenn, what was your 216th wicket? Yeah, I got, Robin Smith caught down the leg side at Nottingham, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, he just does that for
just for fun.
It's ridiculous.
It's crazy. All right, we move on. We're going to go to the English Premier League. Manchester City defeat Manchester United 1-0 and is claimed to be one of the biggest matches in the English Premier League's history.
Yeah, certainly the Premier League. That, the Manchester rivalry there, and Manchester City have probably had the upper hand of the last long time, where it used to be United, where now it's City. It is one of the great rivalries.
Could you compare that to a Carlton Collingwood or a Norwood Port or a Crows Port?
You can argue it's bigger, but that's we're not over there. Yeah, it is. It's a huge rivalry. Liverpool, Everton.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right, and to finish off, we've got motor racing. 1887, we're going way, way back here. Motor racing, Europe's first motoring competition is won by Marquis de Dion on a steam-powered quad cycle built by French toy maker and engineer George Bolton. French newspaper, and I can't pronounce that there.
Le Vis-l'équipe.
There you go, well played. Organised the test. Bolton was the only participant. So, hey, that's the one way to win it.
Yeah, I missed that one in 87. Missed that by a few weeks. So, yeah.
Me too. Yeah. All right, let's get into the big finish.
Extra time. Big finish.
And Malcolm, usually in this this time of the podcast, we either have a bit of fun with some stuff, or in this case, we're going to talk about a couple of serious issues. Horse racing to start us off, mate.
Look, Dean Holland, tragic loss. Really, 4 kids under 5 as well.
Yep.
Horse racing, it is a dangerous industry. We forget.
People don't realise how dangerous it is. That's the problem.
It is an absolute tragedy. Hearts out to Dean, obviously the family, friends, and the whole horse racing industry. Just don't know what else they can do. But, they're mammoth animals, and people just don't realise.
And they go like the clappers too. That's the thing.
They're going. Yeah.
Yeah. I believe I heard tonight that at Morfett Vale and also Victoria, somewhere in Victoria, they're doing a guard of honour and a minute's silence, obviously to respect the wishes of Dean Holland.
Look, he pretty well respected. You've certainly got around and read some stories this week. Look, it's just a tragedy, and yeah, words sort of fail a bit more as well there.
We move on from that to a bit of an AFL/SANFL, a little bit with the mental health, but a young player passes away in the Adelaide Hills League, promising junior player.
Yeah, Antonio Locacuno. Apologies if I haven't got that quite correct pronunciation. Look, he played as a junior at Norwood as well. He's been around the traps a little bit. He's ended up at Burwood. Yeah, tragic, just accident against Gumaraka. I may have grabbed one of the Norwood kids on Sunday, said, how you going? And, I'm not playing that well. Said, Sam Morris, look, does listen to our pet podcast. Bugger footy, this thing's way more important than that. How you going, mate? And look, we do need blokes to talk more, and it does. Our hearts out to Antonio, his friends, relatives, family, just an absolute tragedy. But on the mental health side of things, I want to congratulate a guy today, Matty Nunn, Norwood captain, has come out and said, hey, I need a bit of help. I'm not going that well. And he has, Kennelly is now being co-captain the rest of the year with Matty. But it's more the point, just Matty's actually been honest and admitted it. I've had a conversation with him today, back and forth a bit with Texas, and catch up. But I just think over that, we've got to have blokes admit we're getting better.
Yes,
but geez, there's still a distance to go. Hey, I'm not okay. I need a bit of hand.
The AFL have led the way in this space recently. It certainly isn't a stigma these days for players to come out and say, "Hey, I'm not actually doing so well." I congratulate Matty on doing that and actually speaking up. We do obviously. Hearts go out. Hey, chuck us a message on our Facebook if you just want to chat about anything. Both Malcolm and I are obviously administrators there, so we do see messages as they come up.
Jacob Kennelly too.
Jacob,
there,
sorry.
So, Jacob putting with Matty there.
Yep.
I just think out of that, there have been two absolute tragedies in sport in the last couple of weeks, and it's just a huge reminder. Anzac Day is a reminder as well that this thing's far more important than winning and losing. And hearts out to everyone.
Absolutely.
Everyone.
Condolences, obviously, to Antonio's family and everybody involved. Yeah. Mate, we've got to move on. Tennis. Tanasi Kokonakis, once again, in a little bit of a heated dispute at the end of a match. Just seems to be a bit bristly lately. Yeah,
you do wonder,
seeing the footage a little bit, there was, I'm not going to say this right, there was probably a little bit of a language breakdown. Tanasi was saying something to the umpire. The player thought he was saying something to him. There just seems like there was a little bit of confusion there. At the end, they sort of agreed to disagree. They just couldn't settle it at the end. Look, it didn't end in fisticuffs or pushing and shoving. It was just a heated debate at the net going, did you say this and did you say that? And it was weird. It was just really weird.
Bit bizarre.
Crazy. But just a little bit bristly lately. Obviously, he's back on the tour on a full-time basis, and some things are frustrating him more than others. All right, mate, we move on. Big announcement this week, or in the last couple of days, and I believe tomorrow being Saturday, there's a huge announcement down in Tasmania. Tasmania to get the 19th licence.
Yeah, the government's come through with the money with the stadium, is my understanding. Look,
positives and negatives. That's probably where I want to kick us off here.
I'm fully in term. There should be a team in Tasmania. We can't debate that. That's just a given. Personally, it shouldn't be another team.
Yep.
It should have been a relocation. Now, I know Tasmania kept saying, no, we want our own side. Well, hang on. Sydney started off as South Melbourne relocating. Does everyone remember that now? South Melbourne supporters do now when Sydney are in finals.
Yes.
I think it's great. which is fantastic as well. And full credit to
Brisbane and
Sydney,
Fitzroy are exactly the same thing.
Which
yes.
I do think that's what should have happened. I think it is still absolutely ridiculous to have 10 teams in Victoria. It's meant to be a national competition, not an extended VFL.
I was surprised when they announced it, saying that it was the 19th licence. I was hoping that they were saying, look, there's going to be a team down there, or there's going to be a team coming out of Tasmania, and that they would be exploring opportunities for not only a Victorian team to relocate, in some cases probably Gold Coast, but I know that's more of securing that Eastern Seaboard sponsorship money. Sort of understand that, but, you know, they're not going to build an indoor stadium. I believe that the decision behind that is so that way they can host Test match cricket.
Yeah.
So it's got a little ways to go this at the moment.
There'll still be a few bit of toing and froing on various things and all that. And, you know, I heard tonight on Tim Geneva and Treaders saying that it's ridiculous. It's only going to be 23,000. Well, I'm the other way. I think that you don't want it any bigger. You want to be able to sell it, get all season tickets sold. You can do your budget from there. Mm-hmm. That's our incoming money. You can sell the tickets at a premium.
Yes.
Not under if it's 35 and it's not selling out. So I actually think that's smart.
Yes.
I'm sitting there, I was driving, listening and thinking, you guys think. And yeah, I'm not thinking they're thinking the overall picture.
I sort of agree with you there. I think you've got to look at what's going to be built around it is the key.
Yeah.
Obviously, they're talking about Adelaide being the somewhat and Optus Stadium over in Perth being the template where you're building it where there is easily accessible from a city or a hotel or a pub. To be able to generate that income through that area. So I think it's positives, but I also think there's still a couple of little negatives there. And I think Eddie Maguire put it quite succinctly on Footy Classified is that, you know, the AFL are sort of wanting it to happen and the government are wanting it to happen, but the AFL clubs have got to agree to it to happen. And if they don't, it's almost like shooting Bambi. Yeah. So they're stuck between a rock and a hard place. Yeah. I was surprised that they did... say the 19th licence. I thought they might just leave it open that Tasmania will have a team, and whether that be a merged team or a team relocating, interesting.
I think out of that, they were listening to Tasmania's wishes, saying, it's got to be our own team. I just disagreed with not seeing the overall thing there. And I just don't think there's enough players for 19 teams either. I think the standard...
Well, the standard's starting to drop, isn't it?
Well, the last few on each side, so we now have a compromise. It's going to start off the compromise draft again and all that sort of thing. So, look.
There's a ways to go. What year do you see it actually coming to fruition?
Probably 28 or 29.
That's where I think it's going to be, 28, 29, maybe 30 if things start to blow out a little bit.
Yeah.
That does give them a reasonable lead up to obviously secure some local talent as well.
Yeah.
I know they did go through the 20 players that are playing currently.
Yeah, I tell you what, I did look at that through that list, and I'm thinking there's
a few older ones there that are not going to be around when that happens.
There's no real person which smacked you going, well, we've got to recruit them to be a marquee player immediately. Yeah.
The only player from Adelaide here, both Adelaide and Port Adelaide, is Chase Jones.
Yeah, and look, he's steady improvement this year, and he was a high draft choice and all that, but he doesn't smack you between the ears as the marquee player.
Agreed. All right, mate, we'll leave that one there. That one's going to have some legs over the next few days, and we'll obviously talk about it in our next podcast. Just staying with the AFL, North Melbourne past legends Wayne Carey and Pagan coming together for the first time since that incident in the 90s.
Yeah, look, some good things. I think it's just got to be careful what comes out because there's stuff there which doesn't serve any purpose.
Correct. It's not for us to talk about, so to speak, as far as make comment on, because we weren't there and we don't know the full set of circumstances. But it's very interesting that two people who had been linked through the North Melbourne days where they were flying, first time they've talked in 20-odd years, just is amazing to me.
Yeah,
because it sort of tore North Melbourne apart.
Oh, I did.
And that's, I'm sort of leading to this where North Melbourne really haven't recovered from that.
Not to a large extent.
No.
Let's remember, he was the king. He was the number one player. he's number one player in the competition as well. And it's a messy situation where there's no winners.
Absolutely. And we finish off tonight, mate, for the LIV Golf. Congratulations to the Grange Golf Club. Hosted the biggest and best players in the world, and did they turn it on? And Adelaide, the weather turned it on as well, which certainly helped.
Oh, incredible. It'll be interesting. We are trying to get Nick Haslam on. I did leave a message for Has today, so we'll keep chasing him to try and get him on to speak about it and get from that perspective. Incredible success. 2 weeks here where South Australia has been the leading sport, the capital of in the country and arguably the world with the golf, with LIV Golf, and you heard the players saying that's been the best tournament so far.
Now, we do have it for one more year. I did hear that somebody let that out of the bag before Peter Malinowskis could sort of announce it officially, but I think that they're looking at another further 2 years as well.
My understanding is it's going to be another, to get the 3 years, be a bit similar to what Gather Round will be from there. I think that's a fait accompli is my understanding. Look, just 2 great weeks.
It's fantastic, isn't it? And if the players are saying this was just absolutely fantastic, can't wait to come back, then you're on a winner there. And it was different. I mean, a lot of people don't understand that, I suppose the old person's golf is something that's there still, yes, but I think we have a new segment, a bit like the Big Bash.
Yeah.
In 2020 and so on and so on.
That hole and the celebration.
Wasn't that hole-in-one amazing?
Oh, incredible. And, look, it's different, but we've got to go with the times and a sensational, successful tournament.
They're attracting new sponsors, new supporters. I mean, they had 77,000 over the 3 days? Yeah. And they were still turning people away. Yeah. And they had to open up extra tickets to view the Pro-Am because they couldn't fit everybody in. I mean, that's just crazy. So they're looking at ways to increase that next year.
People to watch Andrew Jarman play golf. Yeah, different. Yep.
Not on my bucket list, unfortunately. No. But anyway, there was nothing against Jars on that one there. Mate, we've once again come to an end of another big episode. We thank Michael Taylor for his time tonight. And as per usual, mate, we promise to do better.
We'll have another crack.
See you next week.
In this crazy world we live in, we all need the distraction. Enjoying the show? Like, rate, and subscribe. Hook up and connect with us on social media at Sportscast SA. We'll see you next time on Game On.